All statements and opinions expressed by guests of the Adult in the Room podcast are strictly their own and do not necessarily reflect the beliefs or opinions of the host, producers, or advertisers. All interviews are presented in their most complete possible form in the interests of free speech. No statements should be interpreted as financial, legal, or medical advice. Listener and viewer discretion are strongly advised.
It's the Adult in the Room podcast with Victoria Taft. That's me. But oh no, hey, we're live. I think we're live. And hey, everybody, thanks so much for joining us on the Adult in the Room podcast. And I'm here with Sam Faddis, and he has been kind enough to hang in there while we had some never before seen gremlins in the system. And I can only imagine that as a former CIA guy and a guy who preceded the troops into Iraq to find out if whether there was any WMD, etc. for the CIA, that he's probably had something like this happen before, but it's kind of embarrassing when I got you on the air here, and appreciate it. Okay. All right. So we're going to start. We are going. How are you?
I am doing very well. And yes, all of the gear breaks all of the time. So the first thing that happens as soon as you roll outside the wire is none of your radios work anymore. Even though they were all working 30 seconds ago, and they've worked every time you've tested them. So
yeah,
just goes with part of the business.
There was how much did you pay? I know you've paid attention because you've done your Substack stuff on your And magazine, and under your own name as well. But
Right.
It's so interesting about what happened a weekend in Venezuela. And at the military installation, our troops went into to get Nicolas Maduro. Now, here is Dan Raisin-Kane talking a little bit about how the CIA played a role. But I tell you what, why don't I get your initial reaction to this operation?
Well, look, I mean, Maduro's a monster, and he's guilty of everything that he's been indicted for and about 9 million other things. So if there's a God in heaven, he will be convicted and he'll spend the rest of his life in prison. And that's a great and wonderful thing. And look, the op was flawless, and doing something like that is unbelievably difficult and requires everything to go right. And you got to have all the right guys and gals, and then you have to have all the gear, and you have to practice it over and over and over, and you have to have absolutely superb information, right? When those guys either fast rope onto the roof or hop off the chopper, depending on what kind of aircraft we're talking about. They don't just go through a door and go down a stairwell and kind of figure it out as they go. That's not how well, you can do it that way. And if you do it that way, really bad things are likely to happen to you. So that that means you have to know exactly where that stairwell goes. And when you get to the door that's locked, exactly what that door is made of and what it's going to take to open that door, whether it's going to take a torch or explosives. And the guy with the torch and the explosives has to be standing right there and already have practiced multiple times. So you go through it instantaneously, and you have to know what's on the other side. And so it's not just superb guys and superb gear. It's tremendous practice, and it's a lot of really, really detailed information. And if you don't do it that way, the next thing you know, you're going to come to a door you didn't expect that you're not prepared to open, and everything goes sideways just on a detail like that.
One of the things I like talking to you about is the preparation. You went into Iraq to prepare the battlefield, and this CIA team that was there, nothing could have been done without them, my guess is. And obviously there were other three-letter agencies providing intel, but they went in August. And Sam Faddis, they had a human source. Sorry, I have a cold. They have a human source. So, I mean, here, this is you, Sam Faddis. You're the one sitting there preaching all this time. Like, we got to get back to human, and we haven't been doing that.
Yeah,
So,
that's the only way. And look, it comes down to stuff that doesn't. In the end, it's a lot of detail, and it does not necessarily sound really sexy, but it makes all of the difference in the world. So I give you, I know Marines that went into Helmand Province in the big surge that Obama ordered, and at one point they were ordered to go hit a bazaar, basically an area with a whole bunch of shops and so forth. And the Taliban were reported to be using it, and it was true, as kind of an arms depot. In other words, it wasn't just they were selling food. This is where they were storing weapons and ammunition and so forth. So one of the first things the Marines went to hit. And they practiced in advance over and over and over before they left the United States how to open the locked doors to the shops. And when they got there, they realized that they had been practicing based on information that said all the doors hinged open like a regular door in your house. And in fact, they rolled up and down like a garage door, which is standard in the third world.
mhm.
That's a really prosaic, who cares, man, kind of crap. But the point is, when you're trying to do this on a compressed timeline before the bad guys respond, and all of a sudden you realize you practiced it all wrong and you brought the wrong gear, and now you're having to make it up as you go along, that all of a sudden that kind of really minor thing becomes a really big deal, and the difference between getting out alive and being dead. Now, in this case, the Marines improvised, adapted, and overcame and figured out a way to get the doors open. But that is not the way you want to have to
You're
do
right.
it. You don't want to have to be making it up as you go along.
Has that ever happened to you in the field?
Oh yeah, sure. Yes, you
Anything
arrive.
you can say?
Well, no, I mean, I don't know how much I can get down the weeds, but you get someplace and you realize, okay, so our source, either lied to us about absolutely everything, or uh, he didn't know, or he himself was completely mistaken. This is not a physical thing, but let me give you. I will give you an example without naming the country. I flew in to a country to pick up contact with a very, very sensitive source that theoretically was already recruited and working for us, and he was inside a nuclear weapons program. So I'm on foreign soil in alias talking to a guy a very, very sensitive guy. And as we begin the conversation, you get into it, it becomes clear to me really quickly that this dude is not on board. He is not on our side. Whoever claimed that he had recruited him was blowing smoke. And now I'm sitting on foreign soil in alias talking to a guy, and he is now aware that I think he's spying for us, and in fact he's not. And so now I'm trying basically terminate the meeting, get out of the meeting, and now I know he's on his way to talk to his security officer for the local intelligence service and report that he just had this meeting. And if I don't move really, really fast, um, I'm done. And so the bottom line is, I catch the first cab to the airport and forget about the flight I had booked and just pay cash and get the first ticket on the next plane that is taking off. And then you sit on the plane hoping that the plane takes off before the security guys show up and stop the plane and drag you off. In that case, since I'm sitting here, you can tell that it worked, but that is not a comfortable feeling, right? Because it's all gone sideways on you and you realize, okay, the entire plan is out the window right now, and we got to just move as quickly as we can to be in international airspace, because these guys are clearly coming for me. No question, when I walked out of that hotel room, this guy is heading straight to talk to his security officer, and they are going to be all over me if I'm not gone.
Wow. Wow. Um, well, let's find out to what extent those guys who came in early did and how it all worked together from
Asked to
Dan,
do
Race,
this
and
type of
Kane.
mission again. Our interagency work began months ago and built on decades of experience of integrating complex air, ground, space, and maritime operations. While the past 2 decades have honed the skills of our special operations forces, this particular mission required every component of our joint force, with soldiers, sailors, airmen, Marines, and Guardians working in unison with our intelligence agency partners and law enforcement teammates in an unprecedented operation. We leveraged our unmatched intelligence capabilities and our years of experience in hunting terrorists. And we could not have done this mission without the incredible work by various intelligence agencies, including the CIA, NSA, and NGA. We watched, we waited, we prepared, we remained patient and professional. This mission was meticulously planned, drawing lessons from decades of missions over the last many years.
Okay, so that's the guy, the Joint Chiefs of Staff chairman, and he's the top guy, and he did it again. He did it again after the Iran op, and now this. And what's the difference between the way he's doing things now and what we've done in the past? I mean, there's Donald Trump. I mean, he's the president, but I mean, it's a yes or no for him, right?
Well, it makes a huge difference what the person at the top is willing to authorize you to do, whether we're talking about the president or whether we're talking at CIA, what the director is willing to authorize you to do, which obviously is a reflection of what the president is directing him to do. So, one of the frustrations that I experienced, and lots of other guys experienced this as well during my career, is, you're faced with a target, Al-Qaeda, for instance, in advance of 9/11. There was no secret amongst those of us working counterterrorism that these are bad guys, that they mean it when they say they're coming for us. They already blew up 2 of our embassies in East Africa.
Right.
They already almost sunk the USS Cole. About every 5 minutes, bin Laden says he's coming for us here. You don't have to be a genius to figure out he means it. He's already killed a whole bunch of our guys. And so you got a lot of aggressive folks and bright folks, and they want to get after the target. I'm talking CIA. But, if you're the bottom line was multiple operations, myself, but many other folks as well, were proposed, and then they were shot down. And you weren't so the ops, you can't get approval for the operation.
Yeah.
And not only does that mean that operation doesn't take place. For instance, when bin Laden was in Afghanistan in circa 1998, was an op put together, it's been discussed publicly many times, to go into Tarnak Farms, his compound, and either kill or capture him. Okay, end it. That's 3 years before 9/11. That was, and the assets were in place. The op was completely viable. This is not a couple of guys had a couple of beers and thought about this plan. No, they were ready to rock and roll. We had the Afghan sources on the ground. We were ready to go and make this happen. That op was turned off because Bill Clinton said, I'm not willing to kill him. You have to guarantee me that you're going to capture him. Not and bring him out alive. Not you're going to try to capture him, which would have been the first priority anyway, because that gives you the opportunity to potentially get information out of his head that you would never get if you killed him.
Yeah.
But if he dies, in effect, your guys are guilty of murder. I'm not authorizing you to kill him. Okay, well, anybody with any sense knows that killed the operation, right? Nobody on earth is going in to do that and then going to risk being federally prosecuted for killing a terrorist. Okay, what that does is it not only kills that operation, but it destroys any motivation in the organization to push the envelope and even try to do that. If you have any sense, real soon you stop proposing operations like that,
Right.
and you move on to other targets because, like, I get it. They're
Right.
never gonna let us do this, so I'm not wasting my time. Now, me not being the brightest child in the world, continue to propose operations, and then what you like that, and then what you find is they are annoyed that you are proposing the operations because you're making them look bad. You're suggesting that there's something we could do about this problem instead of just shutting up and moving along. But in any event, it's demoralizing and it sucks the life out of ops. So people stop even trying to do that.
Yeah.
With a guy in the White House who's going to be willing to sanction things that are way out there, now you're going to get people to say, okay, let's do it. I've had an idea for a long time. I got a source that I think can tell us where Maduro is going to be on any given day. He can give us the X he will be standing on. And somebody else says, I think I can get an access to a guy who's actually works for the company that built the bunker that he's in. In other words, they have the specs. Now, let me emphasize, I don't have inside information on what that source is, so nobody should take that and run with it. I'm just saying that's how this kind of thing works. And all of a sudden you got people that are motivated and they can do this kind of thing.
Um, they had a mole in Maduro's government who was telling them,
Entirely possible.
well, that's what they said. And, or at least aftermath, we've heard that.
Which brings up another point, which is in the aftermath of anything like this, the hunt for whoever provided the information on the ground in whatever country we're talking about becomes really, really intense. So as part of the op, you better have planned for what are we doing with my boy on the ground in Venezuela after he provides this information, because there's only X number of people that know this.
Right. And I hope they extricated him, but I mean, who knows? Maybe they put him in charge. I'm just kidding. But okay, so yeah, you sound like me, Sam.
I'm up in Pennsylvania and it's a cold, damp winter already.
Yeah. So it's terrible where I am right now. In fact, if you might be able to hear the gales of wind howling through the recesses of this building I'm in. So, okay, so one of the things that I thought I'd ask you about was the fact that, the CIA went in. We were told that. We were told that there was an asset in the Maduro government who gave them intelligence. And then what they did was they went in to a military installation. This was, as Raising Cane put it, General Kane, audacious. Have you ever seen anything that audacious before?
Well, we have run operations like this before, but that doesn't take anything away from this. This is, and again, it's not easy, and it take nothing away from the guys from the unit popularly known as Delta, who executed this on the ground, got off the choppers, did that. I mean, they're better than anybody on the planet at this kind of thing. But it's not just that, right? And it's not just the intelligence that you and I have been talking about. There are a lot of other pieces. I mean, Venezuela has a military. Venezuelan, they have radar systems. They have anti-aircraft systems. They have fighter planes. So, and it's not just you stealth and you're invisible to them. I mean, you have to neutralize them in a whole variety of ways. Some of that means you blow them up, and some of that means that you jam the radars, or there's a whole variety of things that you can do and things that have to be done. But just think about the complexity of that. First of all, you have to know what all their capabilities are, where all their radars are, how they work, what frequencies are on, yada, yada, what missiles they have, how they work, how they track, and then you have to have folks in a position to negate that, again, one way or the other, either blowing them up, jamming them, whatever. Either you're electronically preventing them from doing what they're supposed to do, or you're taking them out, but you don't figure that out while this is happening. It's not like a movie. They fired a missile, man. Let's go. No, you get rid of the missile before it is ever launched.
Yeah.
You get the missile launchers, just like I was saying about you go down the stairwell and cut through a door. You're not surprised the door's there, and you're not surprised that it's made of steel, and you know exactly how you're going to cut it open. And literally, there's a guy standing right there with the torch, and he's already done this in practice,
including
20
both the
times.
standard transport
And-
variants and the direct
Shut
action.
this guy up. I just wanted to have some B-roll here. Go ahead.
Well, anyway, so you got a big team around this supporting, and all of that has to go where. And by the way, I don't want to get lost in all the detail, but
Mhm.
you're prepared in advance for the fact that things don't go right. Like one of those choppers goes down,
Yeah.
one of those choppers has a mechanical problem, or one of those helicopters gets shot. I mean, we're not invulnerable, and then you got guys standing by to go in and get them out. So just think about, you got thousands of people involved here. And
Okay.
ever since we've been down in the Caribbean, we have been collecting the data, whether it's the human intelligence, the electronic intelligence. That's what we've been doing for the last X number of months.
Yeah.
Is sucking up all that information.
So Delta goes in, right? And they are in the Chinooks. They've got some Blackhawks, and then those super 160th SOAR Blackhawks, and then they've got the Chinooks, which are the personnel carrier basically. And did they fast rope down? And how did the Maduros get up in the extrication?
Well, I don't know, but I presume that they were loaded into a helicopter that landed on the roof.
Oh, okay.
Are there other ways to take them up? Sure. From a helicopter, you could lower a rope with some kind of gear on it, and you can winch them up or just pull them up the helicopter. I mean, we used to do that in training. I never did it in real life, where they drop a rope into the jungle kind of thing, and you
Yeah.
strap into some kind of gear, and then they pull you up and fly you around for a while. But I would assume in this case, given the age and size, and you don't know exactly what the physical condition of these people is, that you would probably just load them into a helicopter that landed on the roof.
Now, Sam, what's a shaping operation? I heard that, what is it, Cappy Army, he's got a successful YouTube channel. He's talking about how the shaping thing that occurred last summer in preparation for this, what does that mean? Do you know?
Well, I mean, it could mean a whole variety of things. So what we were doing in Iraq for close to a year before the invasion was, in a lot of ways, preparing the battlefield, shaping the battlefield,
Okay.
collecting intelligence, preparing local forces, doing making contact with Iraqi generals to convince them not to fight, all of that kind of stuff. But it could also, in more conventional military terms, mean collecting all the data that I've just been talking about, and then doing things on your side to prepare to sort of prepare for what you have already planned to do. What's that mean? For instance, you fly planes up and down along the edge of Venezuelan airspace over and over and over every day. And what are you doing? You're collecting intelligence, you're sucking up electronic data. When they turn on their radars, you identify where they are, and you understand exactly how they work. But also, what are you doing? To a certain extent, you're lulling the Venezuelans to sleep, right? When the planes and the helicopters go up, you're like, yeah, man, those crazy Americans do this all the friggin' time. There are always planes. They're going to fly along the edge of the airspace, and then they're going to go home. And the ships are going to do this, and the ships are going to do that. And they're going to send radio communications. And, this becomes incredibly complex. From the enemy side, you not only want to lull them to sleep, but you don't want to give them any indication that anything is coming. You don't act one way, and then all of a sudden, on the day you're going to stage the op, everything is different. Like, the enemy sees that, okay, now all of a sudden they're moving ships places they never moved ships, and flying planes places they never did. Oh my God, something must be about to happen. From their side, it's like situation normal. It's another friggin' day. Everybody go to sleep. Open a bottle of rum and chill out.
So the before and after pictures, I hope you can see those unless they're having
Yes.
another. Okay. Pretty amazing. They did bomb the hell out of that place. And that's pretty audacious. That's incredible. This is a military installation, and they took out their munitions. They took out their man pads. They took they took everything out, ISR stuff, and in preparation for that, to create a path for the Blackhawks and the Chinooks to go through.
Yeah, that's precisely it. You do not, like I was saying before, you don't wait to see if this anti-aircraft battery is going to fire missiles at us and then respond. The anti-aircraft missile battery goes away instantaneously at the beginning of the operation, and any other capability you're concerned about. And also, by the way, what this means is, if we have to go back, that capability no longer exists, right? They're not going to rebuild a missile battery or a radar system in a matter of days or weeks.
So the net effect of this op is what? I mean, who does it send a message to?
Well, it sends a message to every adversary around the world, not only of capability, but of the willingness of this president to do this, and to everybody who thinks it's fun, to smuggle drugs into the United States. First and foremost, it says to every cartel boss out there, look, man, we could land on your roof tomorrow, or choose not to land on your roof and just vaporize you. So, that's all good. And Maduro's off the board. I mean, let us hope that the prosecution proceeds as we expect.
Do we expect him to be found guilty? I don't necessarily. I mean, I still think there are some stinkers at SDNY, and I think that there are probably some stinker. I hate Donald Trump, and I'll do anything to bring the pain to him. And they don't give a flying flipping frittata about the country.
Well, I have read pretty extensively. I haven't been directly involved in the case, obviously, but I read pretty extensively what Maduro and company have been up to and what DEA has on him. So I'm fairly optimistic that, the guy's going to be convicted and go away for life. Is that a guarantee? No, it's not. Anytime you have to actually convict a guy in a court of law, he actually gets a defense counsel, and now you have to prove it. And so there is a possibility it goes sideways. I don't think that's huge, but it is not a sure thing. The biggest unknown to me is, okay, Maduro's gone, and I, again, presume he will spend the rest of his life in prison. Maduro does not equal the regime in Caracas.
Yeah, that's what I'm
He is a thug in a, if you will, kind of a mafia that's been in charge in that place for some time. The current acting president was his vice president, and she's as dirty as he is. And all the rest of the guys in the mob are still in place. The defense minister today is the same defense minister before Maduro was taken. At the heart of this is a guy named Cabello, who is the interior minister. He's actually the biggest. I mean, they're all impediments, but he's the biggest impediment, because of the interior ministry in a place like Venezuela. These are the enforcers. These are the guys who keep the mob in power. So Cabello is the guy who disappears people, who drags them off. They are tortured to death. They are gang raped to death. They are either put back on the street broken, and, or they are never seen again. But anyway, he's a thug of absolutely epic proportions. And he's, as an example, he's still there. And he's out in the street, by the way, and has been since the attacks.
I heard.
With a bunch of armed guys.
Yes.
Saying nothing's changed and we're going to fight to the death. And if anybody who thinks about celebrating Maduro being arrested, we're coming for you. So, The message has been sent. Maduro is in custody. These are all great things. Venezuela is not now suddenly a liberal democracy with freedom and liberty. The same scumbags are running the place now.
Yeah.
So we'll see. That's the big question. Okay, what are we gonna, when they don't listen to us and don't change course? What's the next step? I can't
Yeah.
tell you.
I mean, I do wonder. I don't necessarily want us to camp out there for a long time. I like the fact that Marco Rubio says, "Hey, man, we're going to go get that oil. We're gonna control the oil, because
Right.
if you control the oil, you control everything in that country, right?
Right.
And you put China and you put Iran in check, and even the cartels to some extent in check as well." And I just wanted to ask you something. Here's something interesting. I mean, just apropos perhaps of nothing, but I found this story. Just really, if I can find it, you never know. Let me see my life. Oh yeah, here we go. I want to find this story because it was just like, what? Do we have kamikaze drones? And I mean, have you ever heard of such a thing?
Yeah, all it means is, so most people, when they think of us using drones, think of things like the Predator, which carries missiles and it flies around and it fires a missile at a target, and then the drone comes home and it lands like a plane, except it's a robot, or somebody is flying it remotely. I mean, a lot of them are. Somebody's sitting there with it. Somebody's sitting there, usually on the ground in the United States, flying the drone, and the drone fires a missile and the drone comes back.
Yeah.
Kamikaze drone means the drone carries a warhead and the drone crashes into the target and it doesn't come back. And they've been used extensively in the Ukraine war by both sides there. And yes, we have them, and we are expanding the numbers that we have.
Wow.
And I saw the report that we may have used one of those, at least one, in strikes in Venezuela. I don't know if that's true, but it's entirely possible because we have that capability.
Oh, that's so interesting. I guess I've never really thought about it before, until I read about it in TWS, and I thought, oh, this is interesting.
Without getting lost in the details, one of the reasons this is attractive to people is because the thing is cheap.
Yeah.
Predators are not cheap. Predators are not as expensive as a F-22 fighter, but a Predator is a reusable, really complex thing. Costs a lot of money. Kamikaze drones, one-way drones, can be mass produced really, really, really cheaply. They don't have to be super sophisticated. You don't care if the thing ain't coming back, so you don't care if it's just got to carry a warhead and hit a target. That's all.
The vice president, who's now the president, you think she's as bad as Maduro? Just sort of really, I guess, in closing, how serious is she? And is she somebody that Trump can work with, or is she just in place right now as a placeholder until he figures out what they're going to do? I have to believe that they've thought of this, Sam.
I don't know. And here's the thing is, you got to understand, Maduro didn't rule with absolute power. He was part of this mob. Okay. And she certainly doesn't rule with absolute power. She's part of the mob. So you got to understand that she could be deposed by people inside Venezuela, like Cabello, the interior minister, tomorrow. If he doesn't want her to get close to the United States, and he feels like she's being too flexible, then isn't she just going to get disappeared by Cabello, and you're going to be talking to him? So, man, even if she wants to cooperate, she's walking a tightrope. One of the possibilities here is that effectively what you're going to hear from the Venezuelans is, we'll cooperate with you economically. We'll let you have access to the oil and other things. But what we're not going to talk about is actual democracy and liberalization. That what some people are calling Chavismo, which is the system without Maduro. The police state will stay in place. If you guys want the oil, you want American companies to come in, pump out of these offshore oil fields. Okay, cool. We can deal with that much. But we're not going to talk about actually letting people vote for real and actually have real liberties. I will not be surprised if you feel that coming from the Venezuelan side. Sort of like, let's buy you off, gringos. You take the oil and make some money, and then you leave us the hell alone to continue to crack heads and disappear people.
Interesting. Sam
We'll
Vada.
see. We'll see.
Yeah, we will sooner than later. Thank you so much for your indulgence at the car crash at the beginning of this episode, and I appreciate you coming on. And once again, I do not take you for granted. Thank you so much, and for everything you've done.
Thank you.
Thank you for America. By the way, he's a hero. By the way, he's kind of a rock star. Okay. Thank you so much for watching and listening to this episode of the Adult in the Room podcast. We do not take you for granted. We appreciate every single person who tunes in every week to listen and watch this program. We're here every Tuesday and Thursday, live streaming on Rumble, and then on every other podcast platform shortly thereafter when we can port it over and get it over there as soon as we can. All the shows can be found at victoriataft.com, where the censorship regime has been banned by me. Follow me on social media at these names: Victoria Taft, the Adult in the Room podcast, and the Victoria Taft Show. Send media inquiries, or any others for that matter, to victoria@victoriataft.com. And here's a big ask. Would you please subscribe, share, like, comment, recommend, and give this program a 5-star rating where you can? We really appreciate it. We do not take that for granted either. Follow my work at, you guessed it, victoriataft.com. PJ Media, I write tons over there. Flamingo Audiobooks, and of course the radio. I don't do this alone. This show is produced and engineered by Overall Media. 1A Cast is responsible for some of the Adult in the Room podcast's imaging. Logo design by Hageman Creative. The Adult in the Room podcast is produced at Flamingo Road Studios. All rights reserved.